What if I told you that the person quietly cleaning your living room might be the strongest, smartest, and most observant person in your entire house? We see maids every day. They sweep the floors, wash the dishes, fold the laundry, and then disappear into the background like shadows. But what if everything we thought we knew about a housemaid was only the surface? What if there were hidden skills, untold sacrifices, and surprising talents that most people never even notice? Tonight's story begins in a large, beautiful home on the edge of a city. The kind of house with tall glass windows, expensive furniture, and security cameras at every corner. Inside the house worked a quiet maid named Sophia. She arrived before sunrise and often left long after dinner. To the family, she was just a maid. But to her own children at home, she was a hero. Sophia wasn't loud. She didn't interrupt conversations. She moved carefully, respectfully, doing her job with dedication. The family she worked for, especially Mr. and Mrs. Carter, barely knew anything about her life outside their walls. They never asked how she managed 2 jobs. They never wondered how she learned to cook 5 different cuisines perfectly. They simply expected everything to be done. But here's what most people don't realize about domestic workers and housemaids. Their job isn't just cleaning. It's not just cooking. It's not just childcare. Behind that simple uniform is a person who sees everything, who understands family dynamics, who notices when someone hasn't eaten all day, who can tell when a child is being bullied at school without being told. Maids often become silent protectors, emotional supporters, and sometimes even crisis managers inside someone else's home. One evening, something happened that changed how the Carter family saw Sophia forever. A sudden emergency, a moment of panic. And in that moment, the person no one expected stepped forward. Calm, focused, capable. You see, there are things maids can do that most employers never imagine. Skills they've learned not from luxury, but from survival, from raising their own families with limited resources, from solving problems without help, from staying strong when no one is watching. In this video, we're going to uncover 7 things you didn't know maids could do. Some will make you respect them more. Some might make you question how you see domestic workers. And number 4 is something that completely shocked the Carter family that night. Because sometimes the person you think is just helping is actually the one holding everything together. And what Sophia did that evening, well, it didn't just save the day. It revealed a truth that no one in that house was prepared to face. But before we get to that moment, let's start from the beginning. Long before that emergency night. Sophia had been working for the Carter family for almost 3 years. When she first arrived, she carried a small bag, a folder of documents, and a quiet determination to prove herself. She wasn't just looking for a housekeeping job. She was looking for stability, a safe income, a chance to send her 2 children to a better school. Like many domestic workers, she left her own home before sunrise and returned when her neighborhood was already asleep. Mrs. Carter hired her quickly. Sophia's resume was simple but impressive. She had experience in childcare, elderly care, cooking, and home management. She knew how to organize schedules, handle grocery budgeting, and even basic first aid. But none of that seemed important to Carters at the time. They just needed someone reliable. At first, Sophia focused on small details. She memorized where everything belonged. She learned how Mr. Carter liked his coffee. No sugar, just a touch of milk. She noticed that their teenage daughter, Emily, often skipped breakfast before school. She quietly began preparing a small smoothie for her every morning, placing it near the door without saying a word. Over time, the house began to run more smoothly. The pantry was always stocked. The laundry was never late. Even the family's busy schedule felt easier to manage. When guests visited, they complimented Mrs. Carter on how organized her home was. Mrs. Carter smiled proudly, rarely mentioning the housemaid who made it all happen behind the scenes. But Sophia saw more than just chores. She noticed tension between Mr. and Mrs. Carter during late-night conversations. She heard Emily crying softly in her room after phone calls. She noticed that Mr. Carter had been receiving more urgent business calls lately, his voice lower and more serious than before. The atmosphere in the house was changing, slowly but clearly. Sophia never interfered. That wasn't her role. But being present in someone's home every day means you see patterns others miss. You understand moods. You sense when something feels off. One afternoon, while cleaning Mr. Carter's home office, Sophia saw documents scattered across the desk. Financial papers. Contracts. She didn't read them fully. She respected boundaries. But she couldn't ignore the stress in the air. Mr. Carter had been distracted for weeks. Even at dinner, his mind seemed elsewhere. At the same time, Emily had grown distant. She spent more time alone, scrolling on her phone, barely speaking. Sophia tried small gestures, leaving her favorite snacks out, folded her clothes neatly, offering a soft, "Have a good day" in the morning. Emily sometimes smiled back, but her eyes looked tired. And then there was Mrs. Carter. She had started coming home later than usual. Meetings, she would say, events, commitments. The once warm family dinners were becoming rare. Sophia felt it building. Not one big problem, but many small ones stacking up quietly. She didn't know exactly what was coming, but she had learned through life that when a household feels unsteady, something eventually breaks. And when that break comes, it doesn't ask who is the employer and who is the maid. It simply tests whoever is strong enough to respond. That evening, the one that would change everything, began like any other. The house was quiet. The sky outside was turning dark. Sophia was finishing the dishes when she heard a sound from upstairs, a sound that didn't belong. She paused, and in that moment, the calm routine of a normal housekeeping job shifted into something no one in the house was prepared for. The sound came again, not loud, not dramatic, just a heavy thud, followed by something rolling across the wooden floor upstairs. Sophia froze, her hands still wet from the sink. For a second, she told herself it was nothing. Maybe Emily dropped a book. Maybe a window slammed shut. But then she heard it, a sharp intake of breath, followed by silence. Sophia didn't think about her role as a housemaid in that moment. She didn't think about job boundaries or whether she should interfere. She simply dried her hands quickly and moved toward the staircase. "Emily," she called softly. No answer. Mr. Carter was still in his home office. Door closed, speaking in a tense voice on a business call. Mrs. Carter hadn't returned yet. The house, despite its size and security system, suddenly felt vulnerable. As Sophia reached the top of the stairs, she saw Emily's bedroom door slightly open. The lights inside were on, but the room was strangely quiet. She knocked gently and pushed the door open. Emily was sitting on the floor near her desk, pale and breathing unevenly. Her phone lay a few feet away, the screen still glowing. A chair had tipped over. I'm fine," Emily whispered quickly, trying to stand, but her legs shook. Sophia's heart tightened. She recognized that kind of breathing. Years ago, her own son had struggled with severe anxiety before school exams. The same rapid breaths, the same frightened look in the eyes. Without making a scene, Sophia knelt beside her. "Slowly," she said gently. "Breathe with me." Downstairs, Mr. Carter's voice grew louder through the office door. Words like loss, investigation, and risk floated into the hallway earlier that week. The pressure in the house wasn't just emotional. It was financial. Something was happening with his company, and it was weighing on everyone, even if they didn't say it out loud. Upstairs, Emily tried to steady herself. "I can't do this anymore," she murmured, her voice trembling. "Everything feels like it's falling apart." Sophia didn't ask for details. She simply stayed there, guiding her breathing. In that moment, she wasn't just providing housekeeping services. She was offering emotional support, something no contract ever mentioned. But as Emily calmed down slightly, Sophia noticed a phone screen. A message thread open. Words that hinted at online pressure, cruel comments, and expectations Emily felt she couldn't meet. The stress wasn't coming from just one place. It was coming from everywhere: school, social media, home. Downstairs, Mr. Carter ended his call abruptly. His footsteps moved toward the staircase. Sophia stood quickly, unsure how he would react to seeing her in his daughter's room. When he appeared at the door, he looked surprised, then concerned. "What happened?" he asked. Emily wiped her face quickly. Nothing. I'm fine. But the tension in his eyes showed he knew that wasn't true. For the first time, Mr. Carter truly looked at Sophia. Not as just a maid, but as someone who had stepped in when he didn't even know there was a problem. There was gratitude in his expression, but also discomfort. Realizing you've missed something important in your own home can be painful. And this was only the surface. The financial stress at his company was growing. Emily's anxiety was deepening. Mrs. Carter's late nights were becoming more frequent. And Sophia, moving quietly through the house each day, could feel the cracks widening. She sensed that the emergency that night wasn't a real crisis. It was only a warning. Because sometimes the biggest conflicts in a home aren't the ones that make noise. They're the ones that stay silent until it's almost too late. After that night, nothing in the Carter house felt normal again. On the outside, everything looked the same. The floors were polished. Dinner was served on time. The security system blinked its quiet green lights. But inside, the tension had thickened like the air before a storm. Mr. Carter began spending even longer hours in his home office. His voice during business calls was sharper now. Words like audit legal notice and account access drifted into the hallway more often. Sophia didn't mean to overhear, but in a house where walls carried sound, it was impossible not to notice. Something serious was happening with his company. Mrs. Carter, on the other hand, seemed distracted in a different way. She scrolled to her phone constantly, stepping into other rooms to take private calls. Once, Sophia saw her standing near the kitchen window late at night, staring outside as if she were waiting for someone. And Emily, she had grown quieter. The panic attack hadn't been a one-time thing. Sophia could see the signs now. The tight shoulders, the forced smiles, the way she hesitated before checking her phone. Online pressure, school expectations, family stress. It was all building inside her. Sophia continued doing her job as a housemaid, but her role felt heavier now. She wasn't just cleaning. She was watching, listening, protecting in small ways, leaving encouraging notes near Emily's desk, preparing meals she knew would bring comfort, making sure Mr. Carter at least drank water during his endless conference calls. Then came the evening that changed the pace of everything. Mr. Carter stormed into the house earlier than usual, his face pale. He walked straight to his office without greeting anyone. Minutes later, Ray's voices echoed through the hallway. Mrs. Carter had just arrived, and the two of them were arguing. Quiet first, then louder. Sophia stood in the kitchen, frozen. It's not just a mistake. Mr. Carter snapped. Funds are missing. Someone had internal access. Internal access. The words hung in the air like smoke. Mrs. Carter's voice trembled. Are you saying this is my fault? I'm saying someone close had permissions. Upstairs, Emily's bedroom door shut hard. Sophia felt her heartbeat quicken. In large homes with advanced security systems and trusted staff, the idea of betrayal hits differently. Trust is everything. And once it cracks, suspicion spreads fast. A heavy silence followed the argument. Then Mr. Carter's office door slammed shut. Later that night, as Sophia prepared to leave, she noticed something strange. The small storage cabinet near the back hallway was slightly open. Inside were backup files, old laptops, and household documents. It was usually locked. She stepped closer, her stomach tightening. The lock looked untouched, but the door wasn't fully closed. Had someone been looking for something? Before she could think further, she heard footsteps behind her. Mr. Carter stood at the end of the hallway, his expression unreadable. Sophia, he said slowly, were you in my office today? The question wasn't loud. It wasn't angry, but it carried weight. In that moment, every act of loyalty, every silent gesture of support, every year of trusted housekeeping seemed fragile. Suspicion had entered the house. And once suspicion enters a home, it changes how everyone looks at each other. Sophia swallowed. She knew what she had seen. She knew what she hadn't done. But proving innocence in a moment like this isn't always simple. Upstairs, Emily's door creaked open slightly. Mrs. Carter stood at the staircase, watching. The family that once saw Sophia as invisible was now looking at her as if she held answers. And the truth about what was really happening in that house was closer to the surface than any of them realized. One more push, one more discovery, and everything would come out. But not yet. But not yet. Sophia held Mr. Carter's gaze, steady but respectful. "No, sir," she said quietly. "I haven't been inside your office today." The hallway felt smaller somehow. Mrs. Carter's eyes flickered between them. Emily stood halfway down the stairs, pretending not to listen but clearly hearing every word. Mr. Carter didn't accuse her directly. He just nodded once, as if filing her answer away for later. "The cabinet in the back hallway was open," he said. "Important files were moved." "I saw it open just now," Sophia replied. "I thought maybe you were looking for something." The silence that followed wasn't loud, but it was heavy. Suspicion doesn't need shouting. It grows quietly. That night, Sophia went home with a tight feeling in her chest. For 3 years, she had built trust in that house through hard work and loyalty. But now, with financial investigation and missing funds in the picture, everyone felt like a possible suspect. In homes where money and pressure mix, even a housemaid can become an easy target. The next morning, things escalated. 2 men in formal suits arrived at the Carter residence. They introduced themselves as part of an internal audit team connected to Mr. Carter's company. They weren't aggressive, but their presence changed the atmosphere instantly. They asked about schedules, access, routines. They wanted to know who moved through the house and when. Sophia answered their questions calmly. Yes, she cleaned the office twice a week. No, she never used a computer. Yes, she handled organizing documents when instructed. Her voice stayed steady, but inside she felt something shift. Because while they were asking about physical access inside the house, Sophia knew something else didn't add up. The day before Emily's panic attack, Sophia had overheard part of a conversation to the slightly open office door. Mr. Carter had been arguing with someone over speakerphone. "You promised this would stay contained," he had said sharply. "No one in my family can know." At the time, Sophia assumed it was just business stress. But now, with audits and missing funds, the words echoed differently. That afternoon, another twist unfolded. Emily rushed downstairs, pale again. "Dad," she said, her voice shaking, "why are reporters messaging me?" Everyone froze. "Reporters?" Mrs. Carter repeated. Emily held up her phone. Screenshots filled the display. Questions about her father's company. Rumors about financial misconduct. Anonymous accounts tagging her name online. The pressure that had already been weighing on her was now exploding into public attention. Mr. Carter grabbed the phone, scanning the messages, his face drained of color. "This isn't public yet," he muttered. "How do they know?" The audit team exchanged glances. Sophia felt a chill run through her. This wasn't just about missing documents in a storage cabinet anymore. This was bigger. Information was leaking, and someone close had access, not just the files, but the private family details. That evening, while clearing the dining table, Sophia noticed something small but alarming. Mrs. Carter's laptop was open on the kitchen counter. An email draft glowed on the screen. It wasn't finished, but one sentence stood out clearly. "I can't keep covering for this anymore." Covering for what? Sophia stepped back quickly, her heart racing. She didn't read further. It wasn't her place. But now the tension wasn't just about external investigation. It was inside the marriage, inside the family. Financial stress, corporate audit, online rumors, private arguments, and now public attention. The stakes had doubled. If the company collapsed, the family's reputation would follow. If suspicion continued inside the house, trust would shatter completely. And if the truth about who had internal access came out the wrong way, someone innocent could pay the price. That night, as Sophia prepared to leave, she noticed something else. A small security camera in the hallway, usually fixed toward the front door, had been slightly adjusted, pointed directly toward the storage cabinet, and toward the hallway where she stood. Someone wasn't just searching for answers. Someone was watching. Someone was watching. Sophia stood still for a long moment, staring at the slightly shifted security camera. Her first instinct was fear. Not because she had done anything wrong, but because she understood what it meant. When trust breaks inside a home, people start looking for proof instead of answers. The next morning, Mr. Carter called everyone into the living room. The audit team had finished reviewing internal access logs from both the company and the house network. Laptops, shared drives, remote logins. Everything had been traced. Mr. Carter looked exhausted. Mrs. Carter sat beside him, tense but composed. Emily stood near the window, arms crossed tightly. "I owe everyone here the truth," Mr. Carter said quietly. The room felt heavy. The missing funds weren't stolen from the house. They were redirected through a business partner I trusted. I signed off on permissions months ago. I thought it was a temporary strategy to protect the company during a risky expansion. It wasn't. Mrs. Carter closed her eyes briefly. "You told me it was secure," she whispered. "I thought it was." The audit team confirmed it. There had been no unauthorized access from inside the home. No evidence that Sophia or anyone in the household had touched the files in the cabinet for harmful reasons. The open storage door had been part of Mr. Carter's own late-night searches for paperwork when the financial pressure first started. Sophia felt a quiet wave of relief move through her chest. She hadn't realized how tightly she'd been holding her breath for days. "And the reporters?" Emily asked softly. Mr. Carter hesitated. "The partner I trusted is under investigation. When that became known, information started leaking. Once the media picked it up, they searched for family details. Your social media made it easier." Emily looked down, guilt mixing with frustration. Mrs. Carter finally spoke up. "And the email you saw me writing?" she said gently, looking at Sophia. Sophia's heart skipped. She hadn't meant to be part of that conversation, but now everything was exposed. "I wasn't covering up a crime," Mrs. Carter continued. "I was covering up the stress. I didn't want Emily to know how serious the financial investigation was. I thought I was protecting her." Silence filled the room. Not angry silence this time. Honest silence. Mr. Carter stood and faced Sophia directly. "I'm sorry," he said. "When pressure builds, people look for easy explanations. You've done nothing but support this family." It was the first time he had said it so openly, but the moment didn't feel victorious. It felt human, fragile. Emily stepped forward slowly. "You were the only one who noticed I wasn't okay," she said to Sophia. "You helped me breathe when I couldn't." That was when it clicked for everyone. All those small things. The emotional support, the awareness, the quiet strength. Sophia hadn't just been cleaning rooms. She had been holding the emotional balance of the house together. The financial crisis would take time to resolve. Lawyers would handle the business fallout. Reputation repair would be slow. But inside the house, something shifted instantly. The real climax wasn't about stolen money. It was about perspective. Trust had almost been destroyed not by theft, but by fear. Later that evening, as the audit team left and the house grew quiet again, Mr. Carter adjusted the security camera back to its original position. He didn't say anything about it, but the message was clear. And just when everything seemed settled, Emily's phone buzzed again. A new message, not from reporters, from an anonymous account. "I know what really happened." Emily's face went pale. The financial partner was exposed. The family conflict was confronted. Trust inside the home had been rebuilt. But someone out there still believed there was more to the story. And as Sophia stood in the hallway, watching the fear return to Emily's eyes, she realized something unsettling. The crisis inside the house might be resolved, but the storm outside was only beginning. The room went quiet again as Emily stared at the anonymous message. Her hands trembled slightly, but this time she didn't try to hide it. She passed the phone to her father. Mr. Carter read the words carefully. "I know what really happened." He took a slow breath. A few days earlier, that message would have caused panic, accusations, suspicion, blame. But something had changed in the house since the truth came out. "Forward it to the legal team," he said calmly. "Don't reply. Don't react." Emily nodded. For the first time in weeks, she didn't look alone. Mrs. Carter stepped closer and wrapped an arm around her. There were no secrets left to protect. No silent tension filling the air. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Within days, the anonymous account was traced back to someone connected to Mr. Carter's former business partner. It was an attempt to scare the family, to create more noise around an already sensitive financial investigation. But with legal support and transparency, the threat lost its power. The company issued a public statement. The facts were clear. Mr. Carter had made a risky decision, but he hadn't committed fraud. The real wrongdoing was external, and it was being handled. Online rumors slowly faded. Emily took a short break from social media. With the help of a counselor and her parents' honesty, her anxiety began to ease. She started talking more at dinner again, laughing sometimes. Small steps, but real ones. Mrs. Carter reduced her late-night meetings. She admitted that trying to control everything had only made things worse. Communication replaced silence. The house didn't feel like a place of pressure anymore. It felt like a home again. And Sophia? She kept doing what she always did. Preparing meals, organizing schedules, folding laundry with quiet care. But now, something was different. She wasn't invisible anymore. One evening, Mr. Carter asked her to sit at the dining table with him after dinner. Not to serve, just to talk. It was simple but meaningful. They thanked her, not just for housekeeping services, but for her emotional support, her awareness, and her strength during the crisis. "You saw what we couldn't," Mrs. Carter admitted softly. "You noticed when our family was struggling." Sophia smiled gently. Sometimes when you work in a home every day, you learn more than where things are kept. You learn how people feel. That was the truth behind everything. The 7 things you didn't know maids could do were never about dramatic secrets. They were about real human skills, crisis management, emotional intelligence, loyalty, observation, quiet leadership, strength built from experience. And yes, number 4, the ability to step up in an emergency and hold a family together when no one else could. The Carter family learned that domestic workers are not just maids. They are often caregivers, protectors, and silent supporters. They carry their own struggles while helping others manage theirs. The financial investigation ended months later with accountability placed where it belonged. The company recovered slowly. Trust inside the home, once shaken, became stronger because it had been tested. And the security camera in the hallway, it stayed pointed at the front door, not at Sophia. Because in the end, the biggest lesson wasn't about money or online rumors or missing documents. It was about seeing the people who quietly hold your world together. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one no one thinks to look at. And once you truly see them, everything changes.